good morning. Welcome to the show where we get to go one-on-one with people who are making a difference in our community. Today, our guest is Diana Moser, who is, I got to make sure I get this right because I could call her all kinds of different things, but she's the program director of Theatre Just Because. She is also the director and writer of the upcoming dinner theatre production called A Night to Remember, and night spelled K-N-I-G-H-T.
Haha.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're also with the Arts Council, of course, but
I
we're going to
am.
put that aside. And we're just going to focus on this creative pursuit that you have jumped into. And first of all, how cool that Theatre Just Because, which was really birthed by, and help me out, Michelle Thorne.
Yep.
And
Dana Ivasiuk.
was there a third one? No, there was just the two of them.
Most of the two of them, yeah.
And they're gone now.
Yes, they have gone their different ways, exploring their own artistic journeys.
But you guys have picked up the torch.
Mm-hmm.
And I say you guys, it's of course Justin Shaw, who is, what's his title?
He's the artistic director.
The artistic
Yep.
director. And then Hannah, which is the development director.
Yes.
Was it scary to jump in as a program director of something that had been started by somebody else? And
To an extent, yes. I mean, I did have the advantage of working with Theatre Just Because as an actor for a couple years before Michelle left. So I got into the company more that way and understanding it and knowing her journey through that. And they were very supportive. It originally only came around that I was going to take on the dinner theatre project because it's a major project and producing relationship that we have with Waypoints. And so it was always going to go alongside of this new artistic director appointment coming in to manage the rest of things. So the program director thing actually happened a little bit later after a few discussions that Justin and I had over the summer, getting to know each other a little bit better and understanding what's going to happen with the company, who's responsible for what. And it just turned into a relationship of, hey, you're good at this, I'm good at this, we're better as a team, let's start to actually build a team for the company. And then that happened then with Hannah coming in as well with her strengths development-wise to help the company get to a next level. So there's the three of us.
the dinner theater, this will be year 3.
Yes.
Were you in the first 2? I know you were last year.
Yes, I was in the first 2.
So my question is, as a person that's seen it, how do you survive that night? Because it just, I'm exhausted as an audience member. How do you as a performer, now if you're listening and you're wondering, what are you talking about? Well, the dinner theater kind of happens over a long period of time, and the actors are kind of around you. They're intermingling with the audience for hours. And then the story kind of happens around you. And it must take a lot of strength to make it through the night. Am I wrong?
No, it does. It's definitely its focus. And part of the rehearsal process is always coming back to the fact that this story takes place in this entire space. It's not just the story on this stage. And you always have a relationship with the audience when you're on stage traditionally anyway, but this is a totally different relationship. So from day one, it's always going through that process when you're in rehearsal of these things happen, and even though there's a story that's happening and then you're going to have this scene, you have this interaction with these characters and things, the whole thing exists in this space. So the audience is always physically part of it. So you're going to be placed in places around the room, and you know that there's going to be things happening where you don't necessarily have a script part, but you know that you're reacting to what's going on. You might be reacting to what the audience is doing. So there is a rehearsal part to it, and there's also just a letting go and just having fun when you're there and in the moment.
This is a creation of yours. You're the writer, and I know you've had a lot of input from your cast. But where did you begin? Where did the idea come from, and when did you start to develop it?
Oh my! We'll go back several months to the summer. So in these original discussions that I was having with Justin about this is the upcoming year and this is all this and this is the dinner theater, I didn't have a script yet, and it was working with Waypoints as well, the producer of this, and it's for their fundraiser, about what are things that worked and they liked the past couple years, what are things they're looking for, but they were quite open, like for us to creatively think about what we wanted to do and what I wanted to do. And it ended up, after doing some research and talking, that I didn't want to find a script that I wanted to try and work. I had done this 2 years in a row. We knew what Theatre Just Because was about, which is empowering artists to take ownership of their work. And so for me, it turned into, well, you know what? I have this theme idea just from some of the research I've done. And I knew what I wanted to say, the type of rehearsal process I wanted, how I wanted the show to look. And I thought, well, maybe why don't we just create it? And Justin was big on that as well, because he himself is a writer and has done a lot of creation. And so he's like, well, I can support you with that. And so it just sort of happened. Why not? Let's do this. And when you have a team with you, it really helps.
So without giving away the farm, what is the premise that people will be coming into at A Night to Remember on February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd? And are you ready for it? At the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts. 18 syllables in that word, ladies and gentlemen. I figured it out. I had my calculator.
So essentially the story of A Night to Remember is that the king gathers his court and subjects all together at a feast where he announces that there is a need to find a champion, and they need this champion to defeat a dragon, which he says is terrorizing the kingdom. Now, try as hard as she might, our heroine Eleanor is not crowned this champion, even though she wants to be. And the celebration of the champion who does get chosen is interrupted by the surprise arrival of this dragon at the feast. And everybody is freaking out, and the champion runs away, and it's a big, scary thing. Now, Eleanor declares that she's going to defeat this dragon, and so she gathers a ragtag team of associates to help her, other characters there. We have a powerful sorceress, a mischievous jester, a jolly friar, and a hapless knight. Now, this team gets together, they summon the dragon back, and then they discover a shocking truth about a plot that goes deeper than anyone could have imagined. So my little tagline I like to say is, A Night to Remember is an adventure packed with larger-than-life characters, hilarious moments, and audience participation, perfect for an unforgettable night of dinner theater. It's going to be great.
How awesome is that? So you had the shell of the storyline, and then you worked with your actors to where they got, because I know because Dylan's a part of it, and he's shared that you've empowered him to come up with new ideas and things. So talk about that from a development perspective. How important has it been for the actors?
For sure. So being in this dinner theater the past couple of years, that was one of the things that was really engaging and interesting for me as an actor to grow that way of, yes, there's a scripted story, there's scripted things that need to happen, there's characters, but we got to really play with who are these characters, what are their interactions, because as you mentioned, there's a few hours of us really building this world and making this world happen, not just what they see script-wise, but totally. And so that was important to me, that I wanted to give that power to people to really build. So there is, yes, a scripted story in this. There are scenes. These are things that need to happen. This is the storyline. But there's a lot of things that are moving and happening around. There's whole scenes where I've asked people, well, come up with this, try this. What's your relationship? What's your stake? And really helping those who are a little more seasoned in it, because we've got a mix of actors who have done it quite a bit before the dinner theater or things like this, and some who haven't at all. And just really empowering them, again, I use that word, to take this story and say, well, this is how it makes sense to us and our context and the group that's together. So
you're usually on the stage as an actor, and have been for, in this community, 5-6 years now?
Not that long, but getting there.
It seems like a lot. But have you directed before here?
Not at this scale, no. I've directed a couple small one-act plays that are usually a couple people or just myself, sort of like that engagement on that level. I have, in my other job, managed large-scale events and things like that. So this is kind of a mushing together of those two things and doing this large-scale directing piece.
How has the mushing been? and what keeps you up at night about this process?
Well, two parts there. Okay, so how's the mushing been? It's been good. It's been a great learning experience. And I don't mean that in like, it's been a great learning experience. I mean it in a good way. It's helped me a lot as an actor, and it's really developed me as someone who cares about theater and is interested in theater, just the pieces that have to go. And there's elements of if you're an event planner person, you'll understand, there's elements of that in all the moving pieces, and I have to make sure this, and this happens. That's totally different from the stage, so costumes, props, set, the relationship with Waypoints, all these types of things. And then there's the actual actor part, which has been really interesting, of how do you motivate these people and help them get there and make those choices. And then what keeps me up at night is just juggling all the plates, the spinning all the plates, just making sure it all comes together. We're a little less than 3 weeks away now, and I feel good. We're in a great place. It's just, oh my goodness, okay, we got to keep going. There's a lot to still check off, and just keeping everyone accountable and myself accountable.
Main stage shows at Keanu are one thing, and they're very complex and a lot of moving parts. But I would suspect, not having ever done this particular dinner theater, that there's even more so because you're involved with catering people, you're involved with the Waypoints, you have a facility to work with, and you're kind of all doing this, I believe, as volunteers.
There's an element of volunteers. We do have a budget with Waypoints. They have contracted us basically to manage this and run this. So it's a half and half sort of piece. It's part of our season, 2017 to 2018, but it's also a contract relationship with Waypoints as well. So there's good on all sides for everyone, and there's an honorarium piece for those who are involved. But yeah, it's not a salaried piece like that. So. It's still an element of volunteering, and the people who are in this are because they care about it and want to be in this.
Yeah, and it's a major fundraiser for Waypoints. I don't even know what $50,000-$60,000 it raises on an annual basis, and I know that you're sold out 2 performances. You may have a few seats left on the first night, the 1st of February, correct?
Yep.
And people can get those at the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts box office. My guest this morning is Diana Moser, program director for Theatre Just Because, also director and writer of A Night to Remember, the dinner theatre performance coming up in support of Waypoints, February 1st through 3rd at the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts. You're listening to Impact. It is a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, and 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back to the show. Russell and Diana Moser in the studio at 91.1 The Bridge this morning talking about A Night to Remember dinner theatre with Waypoints coming up on February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Now, the 2nd and the 3rd, I believe, are sold out.
That's my understanding from Waypoints, and they were very excited about that.
I mean, it's so popular, and it's a huge, amazing night. What time does it start? When do people arrive? And kind of when does the whole thing wrap up?
Right, so it's a full evening. So the doors open at 6:30, and there's sort of a half an hour piece where you're coming in if you want to get a drink. There's a whole photo booth. There's finding your spots, that kind of thing. We're doing some activating as well in that first little pre-show piece, and then the show starts at 7. And the play is going. There's a 4-course meal, I believe, this year that's happening. There's an intermission piece, and then it's back into Act 2, and then it wraps up. And then there's, I believe, a live auction this year, as well as a silent auction out in the hallway that people can visit. And then there's sort of a let's just mingle, dance, have fun at the end once the night wraps up with the play. So it's a full night. And so what you're doing when you're buying your ticket is you're not only supporting Waypoints and all the really important work that they do, but you're getting,
it's
hours,
a big night.
Hours.
Yeah. You've described some of the characters in A Night to Remember. There's names like Sorceress and Jester. Suggests they perhaps are wearing period garb. Are they going to be dressed in sort of middle age? What do they call that? Medieval.
Or middle-aged.
I don't know. So medieval garb.
Yes.
Cool.
We've got a lot of elements with costumes in this one. And actually, it's been really wonderful to work with Katya Petukova, who is the owner of Pink Whale Theater, which is a puppet theater. She's from Russia originally. She's worked in many places, and she is just a technical genius. She's our technical designer for the whole show. She's newer to our community. She moved here probably almost a year ago. And so she has created puppets. She has created our dragon. She's created a lot of the costumes. She's building from scratch, which is fantastic. We do have a wonderful relationship with Keanu Theatre and Art Center, and so we're borrowing some costumes, but she's modifying as well. And she's creating all of our light design and just some really great things. Got a great person on.
Okay, you have to say her name again because it's, what is it, Petukova?
Katya. Or Katerina, fully.
Katya.
Petukova.
Petukova,
yes.
What a beautiful name.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Are you encouraging the audience members to dress in period garb as well if they want?
This one's a little bit different. I mean, the last year it was an 80s theme, so people were really into that one. The year before it was a wedding, so it just depended. This year, I mean, if you've got something medieval, go for it.
That'd be fun.
We'll see. I mean, I think that the great thing about this is it's a full night, and so you can be as fancy or not as you want. You're just going to come and have a really fantastic time.
I think there'd be an increased danger of being dragged on the stage if you happen to wear period garb. Just saying.
We'll see you more easily. That's true.
One of the things that impresses me the most about this project and the work of Theatre Just Because is the way that it helps create art but it also helps artists develop. And one of the artists that is behind the scenes that I've been so impressed with for a very long time is Natalie Farahani, who's your stage manager. So Natalie is still young. I mean, she's been doing shows with us, it seems like, for years.
She's only 15.
But she's only 15, so she's your stage manager. I want to just shine the light on Natalie for just a second. So here's a young person who has shown an incredible work ethic, but has developed intensely as a really proficient stage manager. Talk about her.
Yeah, I first met Natalie in Les Mis, which is now 4 years ago.
Long time
Oh
ago.
my goodness, on stage. And then since then, she's been in pretty much every technical role that she could get her hands on, especially stage management. She definitely was mentored a lot under Steph Link, who was the former resident stage manager at Keanu. And for Natalie, she's got that mindset. She's got that organizational feel. She really understands theater. She really cares about it. She really works and understands the team that needs to be behind something. And I mean, she literally is my right-hand man. A stage manager really is there to help project manage everything that's happening on stage, that's in rehearsals, managing the actors and all that. And then the technical side, when you actually get on stage, she handles it. And she's only 15, but she knows. And she'll ask me questions at the end of rehearsal of like, okay, so we need this and this and this, and I noticed this, and then she'll send out production notes every night. And it's just, she helps keep me on track so much, and it's really wonderful. And I think that she wants to do this with her life, and I hope so, because she's a very talented person who cares about learning and developing herself and knowing that it takes work. And my goodness, it's so wonderful to have her on board again.
If there are parents listening who have kids that are in hockey, as an example, you probably know that those kids come home and they speak the language of hockey, and much of it you don't understand. Well, the same is true for theater. And because both my sons have been involved in theater, and Dylan, the older son, is in your production, he comes home and reports back as to the things, and he's speaking the language of theater without even realizing it, doesn't even think about it anymore. And all of the people that are involved in your production and all the Keanu productions have developed that language. How important is that process to the development of this community, the theater community in Fort McMurray?
I believe what's important about that is it helps create this understanding of what the complexities of this particular artistic discipline is. That understanding that it's not just about talent. I mean, people say that a lot, and yes, there's an innate ability in people that's better at things. Like, I don't have an innate ability for sports, but I'm sure I could work hard and develop to a certain level. But when you use the proper terms, when you understand where things come from, you see the complexities of, oh, this is a discipline that's been in development and is still in development for thousands of years. And when you all start to speak that same language, then you're getting together as a group, and you're understanding that this is just as much a profession as anything. I mean, any profession has its specific language, whether it's engineering, whether it's sports, anything. And so therefore, you have this appreciation, even if you maybe don't speak that language, of, wow, this is a whole system. This system runs because of understanding how you all work together, using those words, understanding that there are things that happen for a reason, like saying thank you after you hear someone say, okay, you're going to take a 5-minute break. Yep, thank you, 5. I'll say the word legitimate. I don't know if that's the right word, but it just really solidifies that this is something that matters when people put their time and effort into it. And they create a community, and they create something that can be duplicated again and again. Yeah. It's a language that is used across the world as well. So
it's always important to remember when you go see a show like A Night to Remember, the Dinner Theater, coming up February 1st to 3rd. It's a beautiful night. It's going to be fun. You're going to laugh, and you're going to see a lot of talent. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of learning going on. And it's developing a stronger, more adaptive community that can do more creative stuff into the future. My guest this morning is Diana Moser, who's the program director with Theatre Just Because, also the director and writer of A Night to Remember, which is coming up at the Suncor Center for the Performing Arts. I want you to think about that center while we're having a break, and the impact as a director to have that box to play with. You're listening to Impact right here on 91.1 The Bridge. Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Impact. My guest today is Diana Moser, the program director of Theatre Just Because, a local theatre company, and also the director and writer of the upcoming dinner theatre production of A Night to Remember, which is happening in an amazing venue called the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts. It was built, 6-7 years ago? The years just sort of go by.
Lorraine's gonna get mad at me. It's probably like 6 years ago.
I mean, it's an incredible space, which is very, very different from the proscenium space at Keanu Theatre. It is what in the theater world we call a black box.
Yes.
It's a big square box that can be set up any number of ways. And so as you came into the project and imagining how are you going to stage this thing, surrounded by people sitting at tables eating food that's going to be amazingly delicious, what was your approach? And is it going to be different from perhaps what the patrons of the dinner theaters saw in previous years?
Yeah, so to answer the second part, yes, it is going to be a little bit different of a setup. So the first year it was much more traditional, where everybody's facing the front and seeing the action that's happening up there. Last year was an experiment. It's a very hard way to stage in the theater world, which is called in the round, where you're basically literally the stage is in the center and everybody is around it. It's not an easy way to perform a show or even direct a show. So that was a real cool learning experience for us. This year, it's a little bit different. We have a front-facing sort of main stage part up there, but we have an aisle coming down sort of vertically in, and then another horizontal aisle coming around. So the tables are sort of broken up in there. And part of that, my approach to that was because I wanted to use the space more differently than just you're just looking up front at the stage, because you can do that in SECPA, which is really great. You can play with that. And I wanted to also, again, really build in that immersiveness of it of, hey, you all here as the guests are literally at this feast, and so there's going to be these aisles where people are playing and things are happening. So there's different levels that you see and you're involved with. So, and it's really great. I've used SECPA for the Arts Awards as well as my Arts Council hat, just really briefly. And we've had this set up a couple different ways as well. And so it's really fantastic to have a venue like that where you can play with staging and then you can play with lights how you want them, all kinds of things. It's a wonderful venue.
SECPA is the acronym for the long name, just in case you're wondering. I have to get that in there. Last year, there were some challenges with sound. And is that a constant concern as a director with this kind of I'll call it an immersive experience, a theatrical experience, and how do you approach that?
That's part of the learning thing when you go in rehearsals and you develop as an actor. It's always a thing. Big part of being an actor is your voice and using your voice properly and largely. And so that's something that we have worked on in rehearsals and will continue to work on. But also for me, building in how the story is going to go when things are happening, whether or not we need a mic or not, has been an important thing for me, because I know it's been something we've looked at in the past as dinner theaters. We've had that feedback, and it's such a huge part, because the great thing about theater is that it, at the basic level, is you're telling a story. So the more you can do that authentically by just using your voice and actually having conversations, whether or not they're highly projected or something. So I tried really hard not to modify things too much by adding a whole bunch of mics and things like that, because you don't need it. You just have to be smart about it and really help those actors develop that, and so they understand the space. And we've been really lucky. I just want to put a thank you here for the gift of rehearsal space at the Fort McMurray Boys and Girls Club. It's been really wonderful. We're in a gym space, which really helps the actors get a sense of, it's not as big as SECPA, the theater there, but it helps with the height, the length of, hey, if I'm talking, it needs to go all the way over there. You need to remember that. So that's been really wonderful, and we thank the Boys and Girls Club for that.
You said Brody's coming in to do some fight choreography. That's awesome to hear. I mean, Brody's a young fellow that kind of grew up through the Keanu Theatre experience and has turned into a proficient fight director. And so he's coming in, you said, this coming week?
This week, yeah. We have
cool.
fight choreography rehearsals, yeah.
I'm very interested to know, let's go internal a little bit. You have just written something that is about to be performed in front of hundreds of people. That's a big deal.
I'm trying really hard not to think about that part. No, it is. And what's, I think, the best part for me is that I've never been second guessing that. It's just always been like, yes, well, obviously I'm going to write it. Obviously I have the support to do that. Obviously we're going to do this. Obviously I haven't really ever thought, whoa, oh my gosh, I'm crazy. I mean, I have, but not so much that it distracts me. It's really, really exciting, and I'm really glad that I get to do that, and for Theatre Just Because and for our community.
You have a cast of how many people?
16.
I heard 60. 16?
No, good Lord. No,
60.
16. 1 6.
16.
Yes.
Awesome. And give me a very specific example of one of those that you've just seen develop in a beautiful way over the period of your rehearsal. Not to single everybody out, but to really show that there is an impact that this is having.
Oh, that's so hard, and I'm
hard
not
question.
playing favorites because everyone has brought something amazing. That's why these people are cast, and that's why I love working with all of them. Well, there's one gentleman. His name is Will Clark. He was in the Dinner Theatre last year. It was his first time ever doing anything theatre like that. And he came in with I want to learn, I want to get better at this. I feel like this matters in my life as well, and how I express myself and how I explore. And he came back roaring this year. His audition was insanity, and he just keeps giving and giving. He tries, he gives, in the theater world, again, to use the language, he gives offers, and and then he'll like, oh, was that okay, or whatever. But I'm like, that's what we want. We want to have the actors feel that enough comfortable and be present enough that they give those offers. And he does, and he's just going for it. He's the jester. And it's just been really fun to watch him give offers, but also give offers to his fellow actors and make things happen with others in the scene that aren't scripted. It's just, he's so in that world and in that character and trying and giving. It's just been really, really cool to watch him. And he was beyond excited to audition. He's like, I'm coming back. When are auditions? I'm there. So
Was he the groom last year?
No, he was.
I remember he was one of the key
He was the
people.
political kind of like class president guy.
Oh, he was so with Aaliyah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Will did a great job. Well,
Yeah.
that's a great example.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I think
I could give examples of all of them.
it's just so awesome. I mean, it's so important from a development perspective, the work that you guys are doing. So congratulations. February the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd are the dates of A Night to Remember, KNIGHT. So it's medieval.
Yeah.
See, I got the word right this time. And it is a very significant fundraiser and awareness builder for Waypoints, which does such great work in our community. Diana is here with Theatre Just Because, a theater company in town doing some magnificent things. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Impact. It is a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, who always make us look so good, and 91.1 The Bridge.